Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that might be a bit of a dragon nerd. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most weekends or available to download later in your podcast feed. Unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
Betty White.
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and look how close his butt is to his head. It's Andrew Ormsby, ladies and gentlemen.
I forgot. I forgot that line.
Yeah.
Each week we'll chat about movies, television, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our mind. And please welcome our guest this week. She's the true inventor of chaos magic. It's Deneé Hughes. Deneé is, of course, the one and only host emeritus of Sift Pop, and she is welcome back anytime she wants. And so she is back to discuss Raya and the Last Dragon and WandaVision with us. Now, if you have joined us in the Sift Pop family within the last, what did we decide? A little over 2.5 years. You may not have heard Deneé on the show before. It has been that long since she's been on. But if you're wondering kind of what's going on in her life and stuff, we did talk about that in our members only show this week. So all of our Sif Pop members will be able to check that out. But certainly, Deneé, you're welcome here on the show proper to talk a little bit too. How have you been? How have things been happening for you?
I have been good. Thank you for asking. Super professional over here. I'm good. I'm really good. I'm excited to be back. I was actually talking with someone recently who said that the first time that they heard me on any kind of a show was on Sif Pop as a guest. And I thought, that's so interesting because it was after I wasn't doing the show. And then then I came back as a guest on my own old show. And that's the first time that they heard my voice. So here we are doing it again. Hello. I'm excited to be here. I've worked with Aaron for a long time. And Andrew has been an incredible addition to the show. But I'm excited to be back and hang out with you guys.
Well, we are definitely,
especially because I like what we're talking about today.
That is the magic recipe, right? Like if Deneé's going to be on the show, it can't be torture for her to have to watch what we're talking about. And I think we even put a list, quote unquote, together today that Deneé could somewhat get on board with. At least
the
have
best
some,
ever challenge.
Yes, the BEC this week. So because you may not know this, one of the reasons Deneé stepped away from Sif Pop was having to make lists. She absolutely hates making lists.
Ranking things is the worst, but we'll get to that.
Oh, it's what Aaron and I live for.
Yeah, there's a little bit. It just depends on what kind of DNA you got in you. Sometimes there's that list making thing, that bug that you just want to like rank all the things, and Andrew and I are definitely on that side, so it works out nice.
Yeah.
But
I didn't realize how many people love ranking things until I expressed how much I hated it. And then I think I'm one of the only ones that genuinely, I just don't enjoy it. I don't remember what I watched. I don't remember what order it was. And when we get to the BEC, they're not in order at all. They're just, I couldn't do it.
I gave you permission though. In the pre-email, I gave you permission. I said, listen, just think of some you love, and you can just talk about ones you love, and you don't have to put them in order. Like, it'll be okay. We will survive.
Have to talk.
You
That's
just
the
have
only
to talk.
part.
That's right. It is going to be a fun show. In addition to the BEC, which, by the way, is a big category, and it's one certainly many people have talked about, but the best ever Disney animated films we're going to do.
Tall order.
It is a very tall order. We talked about narrowing it down to possibly computer generated best Disney, but there's really only like 11 of those. And so it's, so I thought about after a certain year, maybe like after that run of like lying. And then I was like, no, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just do best Disney animated. So we're going to do that. We've also got Raya and the Last Dragon, speaking of Disney animated films, that we're going to be talking about. And WandaVision. We're doing a TV season review today. Going to review the entire season
on
of
Disney
WandaVision.
Plus. So it's a very Disney episode.
Yes, it is a very Disney episode. I will say this right off the bat, and I haven't actually talked to you guys about this, Andrew and Deneé. I'm thinking full spoiler on the episode. I don't know how we do that. I'm willing to change if you guys feel strongly about it and do like a SIF spoil on it. But I kind of feel like it feels better on a TV show, just to kind of talk about the whole season of the TV show. Because when you get into spoilers, you're like, well, so everything, pre episode 1, we can't talk, so it gets a little weird. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I'm down to clown.
Deneé?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So we'll give another warning when we go into WandaVision that if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, maybe we can give some pre-spoiler thoughts, just, really brief pre-spoiler, loved it, liked it, that kind of stuff. And then we'll have to go into spoilers to really kind of talk about it. So yeah, so that's what's on store for today. And of course, our buried treasure at the end, as per usual. You guys ready? Ready to get into this?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's talk a little bit.
What's that voice?
Let's do it.
I like that. It was like, it was a little bit of an Arnold. Do it.
Let's do
Come
it.
on. Come
Let's
on,
talk
do
about
it.
the thing. I'm so happy.
Get to the chopper.
It is so good to have you back, Deneé. It
Oh,
is.
thank
It is.
you.
No, I'm not even kidding. This is not a joke. It is absolutely a blast to have you back. Let's get into it with some talk on Raya and the Last Dragon.
That's like Aaron's nice way of saying it's so nice to have you back and have everything go not according to plan.
Long ago in the fantasy world of Kumandra, humans and dragons lived together in harmony. However, when sinister monsters known as the Droon threatened the land, the dragons sacrificed themselves to save humanity. Now, 500 years later, those same monsters have returned, and it's up to a lone warrior to track down the last dragon and stop the Droon for good. Raya and the Last Dragon is in theaters now and available on Disney+. It is carrying on the tradition of many computer-generated Disney movies, and the team behind Moana. A lot of the team behind Moana brings us this one. Quite a good cast hanging out in this one with us. What did you guys think? We'll start with you, Andrew. Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay?
A solid loved it. Yeah. I love this. It's just something special.
Deneé, liked it, loved it, disliked it, hated it, or it was just okay?
I think I loved it.
So,
are you sure? Are you sure you did?
That sounds to me like a high side of liked it, or a low side of loved it.
I can't tell. I think I might have liked it. I definitely liked. I definitely like it. I don't know that I loved it, but it's
right.
It's so close. So maybe after we have
really liked
a
it?
Relationship for a while, maybe the love will grow. Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I tell you something really quick before we move on as to why I think I'm struggling?
It's your show. It's your show. You're struggling to ignore the video, the visual. I totally get it.
So it's just reminding me about everything. I think part of it is this is the first time I had my sin brain full on going. And for my job, I look for things to point out that are happening that are troublesome, bothersome, questionable, obvious things, jokey things. And so I found that there were some of that stuff happening that is hard for me to ignore. And so, yeah, but I think now that I'm watching this trailer again, I think the answer is I loved it. Also, her outfit's just on point. I loved it so much.
Yeah.
I will, before we get into kind of our specifics, I will say I fully loved this movie as well. I don't know that that's a surprise. Disney has my number. You know, this new generation of computer animated Disney films are so close to the Pixar formula that they're just so beautiful and emotional and thematic and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I loved this as well. So it sounds like we all loved it / liked it.
Yeah.
So that's good news.
I liked it.
Deneé, why don't you start us off? What are some of the things that you really loved about it?
Well, I know we're also trying to be very careful with spoilers. So I'm going to try to do my very, very best to tell you that what I think I loved about this is the same thing that I think I'm going to reference a lot whenever we go into our best ever challenge leader, which is seeing Disney change up their format as to what the bad guy is, you know, or what the love is. It just seemed to do something in this movie where the hero, the villain, the big bad is something that they're going up against in a story I really enjoyed how they did that. And I think it's an important message. So I think those who watch it and maybe are attracted to that are going to have that feel good feeling at the end. That's not the textbook Disney feel good feeling of, oh, they're in love, blah, 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 blah. You know, the bad guy has been defeated and everything is great. It's like it's more complex than that. I think it's honoring the complexity of humans and emotion and problem solving and all that stuff. I thought it was really well done. That was one of the good things. Do you mean just keep going or
No, you're absolutely no. Let's bounce off it a little bit because it's almost that is for me a pro and a con of this movie. A little bit of both is how there is an element that is different, like you talk about as per the typical Disney romance or Disney villain or those kind of things. But it's also very much the same as so many Disney movies that have come before it in how it's presented, what the narration does. Like, you know, I mentioned it's from the Moana people. There's so much Moana here, you know, right down to the fact that Alan Tudyk voices the sidekick character. Like, you know, it is just like right down the line. I say voices. That's probably an interesting way to say that. But yeah, so there is a lot of sameness here too. But I love that sameness so much that it doesn't bother me. And so I come away from it, you know, that's really the only negative I would think of is just that we've seen some of this stuff before. But you're absolutely right. We haven't seen some of this stuff before too, and that is a nice fresh thing from a Disney film. Andrew, what are some of your thoughts?
I love the world that this movie has created. It's Kamandra is just a fascinating place, not so dissimilar from Earth that you can't really make references and stuff like that to where you'd be like, oh, I could see this being, you know, something that we would go through if, you know, these dragons and other mystical creatures were a part of our world. You can still kind of find enough similarities between, you know, warring tribes or, you know, cultural similarities. I think that besides that, I love Raya. I think she might be like one of my new favorite Disney characters, period. I think she is so cool. She is confident. She's never once really a damsel in distress. From the beginning of this movie, she's learning how to kick butt, take names, and is just so fun to watch her character be this awesome heroine and yet still grow as a person as the movie goes on. So she is very much not the like I said, the damsel in distress. If anything, she feels like the protector. Like she feels like she has to protect everybody, which is so awesome. So she is probably, I could honestly say she's my favorite person in this entire movie.
I love her as well, and I get real vibes of kind of the first time I watched the new series of Star Wars movies, and Daisy Ridley is doing her thing. Like I get real, which is interesting considering Kelly Marie Tran voices Raya. So, obviously from the Star Wars universe as well. And there's something about it that I love. And I was talking on a show recently, sometimes my shows all jumble together, about how much I love just how female this movie is, just how straight up female it is, and how cool that is, that it doesn't bring attention to it necessarily. It's not even really a part of the plot at all. It's just that the main characters are females because there's a lot of females in the world. And we're just not used, we're just not used to that. We're getting more used to it. And I love it. It was fun for me to watch something go, that's not me, but I'm identifying with it still. And, it's an opportunity I'm very excited to have more and more often, as somebody who has grown up his entire life seeing himself on screen and in movies and playing the roles. And, that representation is really cool. So, yeah. What else do you guys want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the cast a little bit? Because I mentioned Kelly Marie Tran. You've also got Awkwafina as Sisu, who I think is so much fun.
Can we talk about that?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Because I did not know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect. I would say that this lead dragon character gives me Genie vibes, and I love it. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was just this sort of unexpected explosion of chaos and silliness, and it was like the right amount. I didn't expect the dragon to be, I guess, a comedy character in that way. Of course, having moments of diversity, there was a lot of range of emotion going on, but there was just this youthfulness. Because the picture of the movie, it has this sort of shadowy dragon figure in the back. It's like smoky and mysterious, and so you don't quite know. And then Raya has this conical hat on, and she's like shrouded in mystery. It looks very serious, but then the character shows up, and it's just a freaking delight. It was so much fun to watch. There was a lot of the comedy in this too, like even the way that the characters talk to each other, that was really modern. So. And I thought that was well done as well, because this movie very much gives me, and it was mentioned in the chat from Phil, like a little Avatar, the Airbender vibe. I got like Dungeons and Dragons vibes. So crazy watching this. And oftentimes like the verbiage, or like how the characters would speak to each other would maybe be more medieval. And this is very modern. And I actually enjoyed that. It's enough that it's going to connect to audiences now, while having that, what is it called, whenever like the dystopian style feel. So yeah.
No, I think
Sisu is fun.
Yeah, Sisu is great and represents something about what's going on here in this movie with the visuals. Speaking of the visuals, those who are listening on an audio podcast, this is what it's like to do a podcast with Deneé. While we are talking, she is chatting in the chat. People are mentioning DVDs behind Andrew's head in his visual shot. And then Andrew, while Deneé is talking, is going and changing those DVDs so they are in the proper order. Like, there is a whole world going on behind the scenes because Deneé has joined us today. I
am chaos.
You are chaos magic. I said it. I mean it. Like, you are both chaos and magic, and we love you for it. But I did not want to leave the podcast audience out of that amazingness that just happened here live on the show.
It's an incentive to go and watch the video. Is what it is.
That's right. But yes, that is one thing I really loved about this and all the other Disney movies, is just how beautiful they are. Like, it is just so gorgeous to watch these movies, and this one specifically with all the colors. And there are moments, and I guess we'll talk about them more specifically when we do the SIF spoil, because we will do a SIF spoil on this for you that will show up in your feed as well, because there are some things I want to talk about. But there are moments in this that I don't want to give away that are visualized and envisioned so beautifully and then executed so perfectly that it kind of blew my mind. I'm really impressed with the artistic aspect of what Disney is doing in this movie. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. So,
is it spoiler, I guess it's going to be whether or not I say it is. No, no songs, like no musical numbers.
Oh,
Right? Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
I was like, I was waiting for it. I'm like, but about halfway through the movie, it hit me. I'm like, oh, we're not doing that.
No, it's not a musical.
At all. I mean, don't get me wrong, the score is beautiful,
It really
and
is,
when
yeah.
it wants to amp up, it does. Like, there's some fight scenes with Raya that are really well choreographed. I know you can choreograph anything in an animated movie, but it didn't seem, ridiculous in any sense of the way.
Oh,
Like
yeah, I
the
agree.
fight scenes were like very visceral, and like you could feel hatred and pain in all of her fight scenes. That really came across. Yeah. Wow. Man,
Yeah.
I love Raya. She is so awesome.
You're not wrong. There was an ability, and because this is animated, we could really get some interesting angles during these
Mhm.
fight scenes
Yeah,
that are
for sure.
likely impossible in like a live action situation. It felt like a stunt choreographed fighting, and it was really neat to see that. There was a couple times I was like, that was awesome. I was really excited to see that. But I it's also interesting to see straight up people just trying to kill each other in a Disney movie. And we've seen it in Beauty and Beast, like Gaston, shoots the beast. And
Mhm.
No one shoots
oh, I'm
like
sorry, we're
Gaston.
not giving spoilers for that movie. Sorry.
Yeah, gosh, Deneé, it's like a 30-year-old movie now.
Oh no! What have
Come
I
on,
done?
get your head in the game.
So, but there is that element of danger in this one. I mean, really cool weapons too, and you've got sort of like an Indiana Jones situation a couple times, and the universe is really interesting in this one.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think it's already been mentioned, certainly in the chat. And I think we even mentioned it too. But there's a lot of The Last Airbender here as well. Very feeling of a very tribal feeling, and how the tribes are different, and how they have different personalities. And I always find that, and the way it's incorporated into this movie, I found really compelling and interesting to watch.
Yep.
We haven't mentioned Gemma Chan, who plays Damari. She's incredible in this. Sandra Oh, also giving a voice to this, and Daniel Day Kim coming in as Chief Benja as well. And I think just across the board, just some amazing performances.
And don't forget, not Betty White. You gotta forget. You saw that whole thing online where people
thought it was Betty White.
That people thought, is it Lucille Sung, who was the one chieftain? Everybody thought it was Betty White voicing her.
I can hear that. I can totally hear that.
I thought it was until I looked it up. I'm like, oh, it's not Betty White.
I missed that completely.
I couldn't imagine in this era that would have been Betty White. Like they really did an incredible job casting all Southeast Asian actors in this.
And Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, in Alan Tudyk as Tuk Tuk, so as the sidekick.
I have to tell you guys too, before we go on to the things we didn't like. I know you have your own system here, but like, I was prepared to not like this movie. I was kind of setting myself up to go, I don't really have high expectations here. I don't know. I just thought that maybe I wouldn't enjoy it. And the beginning of the movie, the spoiler free, has such a similar vibe to other material that they've created. I was like, if this is just going to be the same movie repeated, I'm really not going to enjoy myself. But pretty quickly, it began to have its own identity, and then it kind of sucked me in. So,
yeah. I was going to say, we're still kind of on the positives. The main thing for me is always going to be theme and message, right? Like if you've listened to this show for any amount of time, if it hits me in the heart, I'm going to love it. And this is a movie about one of the things closest to my heart, which is the idea of unity, the idea of what it means to not treat each other as enemies, but treat each other as fellow human beings. That is like the central, obvious, amazing message in this movie. And it's presented in such a beautiful way. And Deneé and I were privileged enough to watch this together. And at the end, I was bawling, and I just said, "Unity makes me cry." And it's just true. Unity makes me cry.
It gets me right in the feel. I'm like, are you crying?
Yes. Yes, I
I did
definitely
feel
cried.
myself wanting to cry one time, and I'm trying to remember at what part. Maybe I'll remember by spoilers.
Well, I will tell you, watching it the second time, I have seen this twice now. Watching it the second time, I was even more emotional, knowing how the whole story plays out and how everything goes. Like there were times earlier on in the movie where I started to well up a little bit, just understanding more of the story. So, yeah, I found all that stuff really good, really compelling, and it worked for me. And so, yeah, that's one of the main reasons I do love it. Do you guys have any other negatives that you want to mention or anything?
I got two negatives.
Okay.
I guess one of them really isn't a negative. I'll let you guys decide. I think that this movie is very much a paint by numbers movie. Like I could predict everything that was going to happen in the movie. Nothing came to me as a shock. Like I was like, and then this person's going to do this, and then this person's going to do that. And I was right every single time. But that's not taking away from the message or the beauty of the movie in any way. It's just saying that there were no surprises for me. But I do think that what I would say is a real con in this movie is I think that there are too many side characters. I think that they kept picking up side characters along the way that could have been, combined into just one solid side character that I could have gone like, okay, yeah, you're the one that's going to be going along with everything. But they just kept chopping up that into a little group of Guardians of the Galaxy, squad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, and there's obviously a purpose for that, right? Like, and we can go more into that in spoilers, but there's obviously a reason for it, but that doesn't mean it's
representation sort of thing. But it just, I didn't see it much really.
Right. That doesn't mean it has to work for you, even if it's intentional. I totally get that. What was your other negative that you wanted to mention, Andrew?
Oh, that I thought it was paint by numbers.
Oh, paint by numbers. That's right.
Yeah.
The only thing I would mention that here, I'll give you a little behind the scenes. If we are unable to have a voice on our podcast that is kind of representative of like the culture and those kind of things behind a movie, I try to do my best to go read reviews from, in this case, Southeast Asian culture, Vietnam, Philippines, just kind of that area that this is based on, so that I can at least be educated on, somebody who sees themselves, feels represented in this movie, kind of how they felt about it. And for the most part, people that the reviews I read seem to enjoy it. The one thing that they mention, and I will pass on, and again, I'm not passing this on from me because it's not my story to tell, but I will tell you there is an element of this movie that they found exciting because of all the things they knew, the foods, the clothing, the culture. Like the movie does a great job with actual Southeast Asian culture, but that it doesn't necessarily do a great job making it feel like these are actual Southeast Asian characters. Like the stuff where you see, oh, my family was like that, or, we would do like that kind of stuff where you see yourself in a broader level. There was some concern that was more just like, hey, let's throw in this food here and let's throw in this kind of, clothing here and, kind of put the pieces in there without really getting the complete feel. Now, when I heard that talked about in reviews, it seemed to me to be very much a minor kind of complaint, if you want to call it that. But I did want to pass that on because it was something I found compelling and interesting and wanted to, try to do that. So that was the only other thing possibly in the negative category that I could pass on.
I found like the main negative thing for me, and I think it's a little bit in opposition to what Andrew said, but I wonder if, Andrew, when you're talking about there being too many side characters, for me, they spent too much time world building. And I think it was a little bit unnecessary how much time they spent world building in this one. And I wondered multiple times if this was a situation where they're trying to do world expansion at some point, like maybe they're probably going to do more movies, right? There's no way that kids leaving the theater are going to not want to go back to this universe by the end of the movie with all of the things coming together and all the characters and all the merchandise that they can sell. There's just no way they're not going to do something extra. And so I found myself thinking that this movie was doing an introduction to a world almost more than it was doing a story, if that made sense. And I would have rather spent more time with the characters than explanations about where we are in their world. Like we see the maps multiple times. We see the explanation at the beginning about what's going on. And then it's mentioned multiple times throughout. And that's okay. Especially when you're dealing with introducing new names, new continents. Everything is a different name. And if you've ever watched any movie that's based in sci-fi or fantasy, where every word is kind of created, you do need to have exposure to that so that it sinks into you and you can kind of like go along for the ride. So it's either like you do have to spend some time, but I thought it just spent a little bit too much time. It's almost like they treated it like we wouldn't understand unless they really hit it over the head. That was kind of my feel, and that was one of my biggest negatives, I think.
There is an element with any movie, especially one that wants to appeal to children as well, where it can feel like it's over-explaining things or not trusting the audience. But one thing I try to remember is I'm not technically the audience. They're not they're not trusting children who probably aren't trustworthy in that way. Like they aren't picking up some of that stuff.
Isn't that the message of the movie?
I think a kid would be like, okay, so there's, some people that are in the winter time and some people that are over here. Like, I don't think that they would need to understand it multiple times. I think they would just accept it.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Yeah, there might be a little bit too much of that here.
It to me seemed like a really great start to a campaign or something. Like it had a lot of, it was the beginning of an adventure, and also the end of one in a unique way. So, but it's a very slight negative. I wish they would have spent more time in the world rather than explaining the world to me.
Yeah, the world building here is it's immense on a level that we're not used to seeing. Even in something like Moana, there's world building that goes on there, but it doesn't feel so encyclopedic. There's something very encyclopedic about the world building they're doing here, where like here are the tribes and here's what they mean, and so that makes for a lot of exposition. And I think you can feel it at times.
Maybe it was because there wasn't any music that I was like, wait, there's too much talking about maps. honestly, musicals do use the songs for a lot of exposition.
And that's what they are.
True. That's true.
And so, there is, possibly that element of them missing. Final thoughts, recommendations. What do you guys think?
No post-credit scene.
It's true. Although it's a very beautiful credits stuff going on. Nice song, some pretty stuff. Deneé, final thoughts, recommend?
Definitely recommend it. Trying to figure out if it's when to introduce it to my child. I like the message of
the Droon stuff can be pretty intense, especially the first couple times we interact with a Droon.
The bad guy in this is a formless void shape magical thing that kind of splits and like wiggles, and I don't know, it's very it had a very Marvel vibe to it in a way. It's
very early exposition, so I don't feel bad saying, but yes, the creature turns people to stone, and when it turns people to stone, it divides. So there's kind of a cell division aspect to it, that every time it captures a person, it becomes more of itself. I
literally did not catch that while watching.
Really?
Explain that to me.
In all the exposition that the movie did.
I mean, I got that vibe. I got that out of it, but I didn't. I saw them. Very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Yeah. So something about turning people into stone gives it the energy to divide itself into two complete creatures, kind of thing.
But I don't think that there was any. That's a very nebulous bad guy. So I think I would recommend it. I think I would recommend it to just about anybody who thinks that they can enjoy a Disney film, because this definitely hits on a lot of that. I don't know how young to go on it. We might watch it in segments and see. But what's intense for little ones is people fighting. There's a lot of people fighting in this.
There is. So one of the points of the movie.
I think I would have to pause a bit and kind of interject that they're having big emotions and let's see how they work it out, which in this case involves swords. So also possibly just wait for a 4-year-old.
It's a big recommend for me. I loved it. That shouldn't be a surprise. It is currently available on Disney Plus for a $30 premium access fee. Boy, is it interesting to see how each of these streamers are treating stuff. Like my immediate question is, why was Soul completely free, but Raya is the premium access? How do they decide that? I think they're experimenting. I think they're trying to figure out what the best financial way to approach their properties are. But anyways, it is premium access. That premium access will get you the film for eternity, because eventually it will be on Disney Plus proper. Or you can go see it in the theater or wait for it to pop up on Disney Plus regularly. So that is how you would find it. All right, guys, let's stay right on Disney Plus. Let's move over to WandaVision. Living idealized suburban lives, superpowered beings Wanda and Vision began to suspect that everything is not as it seems. 9 episodes of WandaVision on Disney Plus. And we are now through all 9 of them. Let's talk about it a little bit. Obviously, you've got the MCU making its way to television because of the things that have happened with the MCU. This was not originally scheduled to be the first video on the MCU. This was intended to come after Falcon and the Winter Soldier, after some movies, those kind of things. But now it is here and is introducing us to what's going on with WandaVision, and with Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda and Paul Bettany as Vision. And we are now joined by my brother hanging out with us as well. Drew coming on to talk a little WandaVision with Deneé and Andrew. So we've got Andrew and Drew. Andrew and Drew, now that we're talking to. What did you guys think? Deneé, we'll start with you. Liked it, loved it, disliked it, hated it, or it was just okay?
I think I loved it.
Nice.
Yeah, I think overall I loved it. It went places I didn't think it was going to go, and so I found myself after the finale wishing that it had involved some of my ideas, because clearly I would have done a better job. So that personal letdown was a little bit to get over, but once I really let it just kind of absorb and thought about what they're doing, not only with this as a standalone thing to watch, but also tying it into the movie that's coming out with Doctor Strange into the multiverse, I think. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
So,
and Spider-Man, I think they'll both be kind of playing into it. Yeah.
This experiment that they're doing, to me, is a success. I think it's a really interesting concept. I think they did a really great job of showing a lot of the elements of 2 characters that we would not have had a chance to really get to know if not for this format. And personally, I really enjoy these characters, and so I like to see more of them. So for all of those reasons, personally, I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it.
Andrew, what do you think? Liked it, loved it, disliked it, hated it, or it was just okay?
I'm going to go with really liked it. Not quite into loved it, but really liked it.
All right. I'm going to go with low side of loved it. And Drew, what about you? Liked it, loved it, disliked it, hated it, or it was just okay?
High side, I liked it.
Very nice.
What?
Oops, I didn't mean to say that and leave. But yeah.
And that's
And
it. That's
I'm
the
out.
show.
I'm out. I like the show. I'm out of here. Good. Well, we all enjoyed it. I mean, in some ways that makes it a little bit of a boring show, but hopefully we can all have different insights into why we enjoyed this show. Now, let's each do just some brief non-spoilery thoughts, and then we'll be able to kind of talk plot and all that kind of stuff. Andrew, why don't you kick us off? What are some of the things you liked, some of the things you didn't like, just in a non-spoilery way?
I guess one of my main cons is that it took a while for me to feel like I was in the MCU. The MCU definitely has a tone with some of its, bigger blockbuster. Actually, every other thing has been a big blockbuster. So seeing it take a step back and try and tone down that gravitas that any MCU property comes with was possibly a little bit jarring. And it took a while for me, anyway, this show to get past. Gimmick is a bad word, but is what I'm going to go with for now. Get past the gimmick of, the serialization and, how every single episode is a different era of American television, and actually get into the actual story. So that was probably the biggest hurdle for me. But once I let myself be taken by the show and just say, let's just see where it goes, and it's going to tie in somehow and it'll be good. And then the 5th episode happened and everything changed.
What was the 5th episode? Was that the Halloween one?
You mean the 4th episode? The 4th was where they...
The end of the 4th episode or the end of the 5th episode? Whatever the end, if somebody shows up.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying now. Gotcha. Drew, what about you? What are some of your general thoughts, non-spoilery?
So my cons is that it became too much like the Marvel MCU. So the exact opposite of what Andrew just said. I thought what they were doing in the beginning was really fun, and then it seemed like near the end they kind of abandoned that, and it became your standard Marvel fare. I kind of, I think there's a reason they have to go to the Marvel, big blow 'em ups, but if they could have found like a middle ground and still somehow played into how they started the season out, I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more.
Deneé, what about you?
I think I understand what you're saying, because when the show started, it was so firmly planted into showcasing like the retelling of different styles of sitcoms, and that was a lot of fun. And then it slowly began to become more and more serious and put us back into the very serious place of MCU, and also set up for the other things that are going to be happening in films that are about to come out. And so I found myself also a little bit like, oh, I missed the joy. My husband watched it after almost all of them had come out except for the finale. And so when I was going back and watching these episodes again with him, oh my gosh, it was like, oh, this was so fun. I remember the feeling of this one, like, we're Dick Van Dyke, we're doing this. And it had gotten, at that point, it had gotten so serious already that I'd almost forgotten the joy of how it started. But I think that's what they were doing that was intentional.
Yeah, and they obviously dropping the first two on that first night was obviously them in some ways going, we know we need to get through this a little bit quicker, so kind of what's going on underneath by episode 4. I think the thing for me that really ended up selling it for me really is Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany. Their performances in all these different, shows, eras, whatever. I was so impressed. I was so impressed with right from the get-go how Mary Tyler Moore Elizabeth Olsen was in that first Dick Van Dyke type episode. That the performances for me are what really sold it. Beyond that, the MCU stuff I also like. I think you guys are speaking to what is always the tricky balance that they're going to have to pull out when they're doing a cinematic universe, which is it has to lock into the greater picture. It has to. Maybe that will not be the case when we've got a dozen shows on Disney Plus, but for now, they know that that's feeding the beast, right? Like they have to feed that beast, but they also got to do something a little bit clever, a little bit unique. And so finding that balance, I think will be part of the trickiness to it.
But that balance of fitting into the Marvel universe, I think story-wise makes sense. Tonal-wise, I think that's where there's like Guardians of the Galaxy was probably the first huge tonal shift in Marvel movies and in the Marvel MCU. And not only have we accepted that tonal shift kind of is carried over into a lot of Marvel movies since. I think it's perfectly fine for especially the television side of it to branch out and try little, different things. I thought in the beginning that to me, that's really, you could still feel that Marvel universe without it necessarily being, I don't know, because the problem with a lot of the movies that a lot of people say, I'm using my hands too much. The problem with the movies a lot of people say is that they are all the same movie. Just pick and put a character here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say that about WandaVision. Not only can you not just tonally say it's the same. Hands again. Deneé, is this you?
It's me. It's my fault.
Not only is it tonally different, you can't put other Marvel characters in this story because it doesn't make sense. And I think that you have that opportunity. You should have stand your ground on that. You should have not gone back to laser on laser.
I think just playing devil's advocate against what you just said, the fact that with Guardians of the Galaxy, you say it'd be tonally different from anything else in the MCU, they were a new cast of characters, whereas Wanda Maximoff and the Vision are staples of the MCU. So going into something like this and trying to change a tonal shift in the story that they're in may have been a contributing factor for some people.
Let me ask a simple question, then we'll possibly get into some spoilers. Does this show make the MCU better in hindsight? Does this show make you want to revisit Age of Ultron, want to revisit, some more of their stuff? Like there's this interesting thing that happens in these cinematic universes, and Star Wars has tried to do this as well, where it's like, oh, now there's an added element to if I go back and watch this and kind of understand, more about these characters. So that's the simple question. Does it make you more invested in the movies, want to rewatch them on a general level?
I don't know, because I'm always willing to go back and rewatch those movies anyway, so I don't know if watching WandaVision is the contributing factor. Like, if the show never existed and somebody said, hey, you want to watch Age of Ultron? I'd be like, yeah, I love that movie. So I know I'm like one of 4 people. I see Drew. I see Drew smirking down there. Yes, I do love Age of Ultron. I think that James Spader is a great villain. His voice is so evil when he wants it to be.
I did go back and start watching Iron Man, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch every MC movie with Iron Man. So it did make me start revisiting Marvel, but I wasn't like I need to go back and see where Wanda started, just because I've felt that Wanda is one of the characters in the MCU that's been abused, like misused. We'll say misused.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Enough that it's just kind of like, I don't really care. I mean,
does this change that in any way?
yes. Oh
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah. When we get into spoiler, I mean, they have done a lot to make Wanda an enjoyable character.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they couldn't have done it without a format like this mini series in this way. Because maybe they would have made a movie before. Like, I don't know, but I love that they did it to the tune of this serial release. I think it's such a clever thing, because I understand what you were saying earlier too, Andrew, about almost wishing that they would have stuck with it a little bit longer. But what's interesting is in the comics, and I'm not going to go spoilery, but in the comics, there is an ebb and flow to the story that they were telling also. So for them to put it into a, 9 episodes, I think it could have also stretched into 10 or 11 or 12 just as easily. Because it felt a little rushed the last 2 episodes. I really felt like they just, and we're just like, oh, okay, this is where we're going now. But at the same time, once you reveal some of who the characters are and what's happening behind the scenes and how it actually ties into the universe, I wonder if the audience would be very forgiving to sit inside that information for very long, because they're going to want to get to the good stuff, which is the epic ending of this series and how it kind of sets up for later. But like my husband, though, he immediately went and watched Age of Ultron again. In every single episode of WandaVision, there's a commercial, and the commercial is a wink and a nod to deeper things happening behind the scenes and just some of the mystery that's building with the show. And there was one with paper towels, and the paper towel one I explained to Justin, and he was like, oh, I see what's going on now. And there's just all these different layers to the show that's not just about entertainment. It's really about a character that's trying to deal with brokenness and grief and guilt and just a whole bunch of crap that's happened to her. And also having, powers and all this stuff. And I think they did it in a really, not only a clever way, but I think they handled it really respectfully. And they gave us an understanding of who she's going to be, at least right now, moving into this next sequence. But I do think, Aaron, yes, for the most part, I think is going to make people want to at least pay attention more to when she's popped up in the past, because she has not been able to be a central character. Because when you've got Thor on the big screen and you've got, Scarlett Johansson playing Black Widow, people aren't going to be interested in Wanda, who at that time hadn't even really gotten her moniker. She wasn't as powerful as she may become.
It's interesting because of this show, Wanda and Vision are now some of the most sketched out characters in the MCU. Like, there's this really interesting thing that happens when you can do this kind of thing. My answer is an easy yes. Yeah, it absolutely makes the other MCU more interesting, better to me. I think from the beginning, this is what the MCU knew how to do, which was take characters that maybe people didn't know about or care as much about and give them, I've said it before, but Iron Man was not a well-known Marvel character to non-comic book people when the Iron Man movie came out. The Guardians of the Galaxy were not a known entity even to some comic book people when that movie came out. Like they're doing this thing where they're like, we're going to give these minor characters center stage, and now the TV element of that allows them to do that even more. And so, yeah, my answer is an easy yes on that. All right, let's talk some quick spoilers. We'll give you a little bit of permission here to talk about some, because I know Deneé, specifically, you mentioned like how you wanted it, to end a certain way, and it didn't necessarily end the way you wanted it to. And certainly that is a normal part of fandom in, this century. Like that is something, because of the internet, the quickness of opinions, predictive, that it probably dates back to, certainly dates back before this, but on a larger scale, I started to see it with Lost. Is, kind of one of those first moments where it's like fandom is going to determine the product, and fandom is going to have an opinion, and all those kind of things. And so there's a lot of that here. So I will say we are going to talk about spoilers for WandaVision. I'm going to try to keep this to about 10 minutes. But yeah, I wanted to give each of us an opportunity to talk about some of the specific things throughout. And Deneé, I'm going to let you start. What were you expecting to happen? What was some of the research you did, and what was disappointing about the end for you because of what you were thinking?
Biggest disappointment for me, but I understand because I know the content, is the kids just being completely dead now. Like, I was like, really?
But they're not.
I guess it makes sense. They're not, but it makes sense in a way because of how the story is, and Scarlet Witch loses her children in the comics and then gets them back, and they actually do die in the comics, and then they're like reincarnated, and their patronage is an interesting story as well. And I kind of knew all that going into this just because I had done research on Wanda and Vision when they became a love interest in the films, and I was like, everybody else, how does that work? So I went and looked at it, like the relationship. It was like, okay, so do they love each other? Like, what is this? So I thought that it maybe would be a little bit different, but what would have had to have happened is it would have had to have had bows on quite a few other things by the end of the 9th episode that they're clearly setting up for being part of content later. And I'm just going to have to wait.
Were we all a little bit silly to expect some of these reveals in the TV show? Yeah. Like, is that when looking back on it, like the idea that they were going to reveal the X-Men or Reed Richards or any of this stuff in the TV show.
How much Mephisto did I hear in the last month that it's right? It's not coming. He's not coming. That's insane to drop that on the general public. They're not going to understand it. Like, it's not coming. But
Deneé, did you watch both post-credit scenes for the final episode?
Yes.
Okay, so you heard her kids crying for help, like in whatever the ether is.
Yeah, I think the true spoilery fashion, if they're going to follow some of that, is that their souls existed. Wanda essentially created them using Mephisto's split souls or something, if I remember that correctly. But
you're
anyways,
talking in the comics now.
Yes. Yeah, so they're like, they're out there, but they have to be found again because they're just souls. They're not bodies right now because they don't have physical form. I wondered how, if the comics were going to do that, I would wonder how they would do that anyway. But to put it with this world that she created, that things that don't actually exist in the world, she could have them in her little bubble, but then she had to break that bubble to save people and to kind of move on. That was just a really powerful visual. And I think Monica says they're never going to understand the sacrifice that you've made. And that's incredibly true. Most people are going to be pretty angry and should be angry.
Yes, they should.
She gets off so scot-free.
Oh, I know, right?
Ridiculous.
Like, hey, are all those people then basically potential superheroes too?
I think that this is potentially where the mutant element could potentially work its way into the MCU. Like,
interesting,
because if you think about it, because of what Scarlet Witch did, we now have Monica Rambeau, who I don't know what name they're going to give her, either Photon, Polestar, or Spectrum, whatever, because Monica Rambeau's had like 3 different superhero names.
Or Polvosek,
Yeah.
all of them.
Her mom's nickname was Photon in the poster. So I don't know if that means she'll take that or if it means she won't take that because it was her mom. So I don't know which way that'll go, but yeah.
But anyway, actually, the Monica Rambeau element of this show is probably one of my favorite parts of it. Seeing that character evolve. If anything, I know it's WandaVision is really what this show is about, but I was most excited every week to see what Monica Rambeau was up to. Also, Jimmy Woo, just because I love that guy. He's just he's fun. I want a Jimmy Woo show just where he just goes around and solves crimes.
But can I ask you this? How many things happened in that last episode that was just like convenient, blah, blah, blah. There's just like, and I was like, it just felt like.
You could just say Marvel.
I know, it was so frustrating to me. Like, she looks over and the runes it's like, well, when did those get there? And there's just, and here comes the ice cream truck. It was very frustrating to watch.
Well, and then you've also got Vision versus White Vision, and it's just nothing. It's
is
just
is White Vision still out there?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he will become, because he has Vision's memories now, right?
Yeah. So he is now the Vision. Yeah.
He is now the Vision.
That's the last thing he said before he took off. I am Vision.
I am Vision. Which
but we never see him again after that.
Himself?
Darcy never shows up. By never shows up, I mean she runs the ice cream truck or whatever into it, and then you never see her again. Oh, she had to go, is what they say.
Yeah.
She had to leave. And that's why I was going to ask you, Andrew, if you felt with that side of the story being more of what you were liking, do you feel satisfied with how it ended? Because it really was, hey, here's all these weird loose ends we have. Let's tie them up as quickly as possible.
It was very rushed. It was a very rushed ending.
It felt really rushed. It did.
Cramped.
And it also felt rushed, cramped. And again, part of this is on us for expecting too much. But they also tease a lot in the show. Specifically tease words like Nexus, different things like that mean something in the MCU. And if you're going to specifically tease, it's not inappropriate for your audience to expect some sort of resolution to that stuff. It was just never going to happen here. And I think that's what we have to remember, is that tease is for the movies.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you think this is a good example of the difference between binge watching and weekly episodes? I think if we had a binge watch mentality, there would have been less of the overthinking ourselves into things.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But in the end, does that make it more enjoyable, or do you think the week to week is kind of the way to go with this stuff?
At the end of the day, I enjoy the week to week more, even if it doesn't pay off. Like, I enjoy the conversations, I enjoy the thinking about it, the talking about it with people, the kind of the internet culture of it all. Like, I enjoy that stuff.
That was fun.
Even if it doesn't pay off, I enjoy it.
It hasn't paid off, but it was a lot of fun. There were some things that did pay off that were a mystery, but then there's some things where we were just straight up wrong.
Boner is, I think, the answer.
Yes.
It was it was the most exciting thing about this entire series, and then the biggest disappointment by the end.
And and liking Wanda and knowing what Wanda can do, and you can't expect the internet not to go reality changing.
Oh, that's purposeful. That's totally purposeful.
You get it, and it's like, yeah, let's go, and then it's boner. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, what a missed opportunity. I mean, you've already been teasing that, Scarlet Witch is going to have a huge part in the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Like, what better way, to, ease into, that story than to have Evan Peters show up as Quicksilver, oh my goodness, this is brilliant. Everybody loved Evan Peters in the X-Men universe, and we are finally combining the Fox universe with the Disney MCU, and it's going to be glorious, and everybody's pumped and going crazy. And then, like Drew says, boner.
Yeah, it turns out to just be the neighbor.
Yeah,
that was
kid that lived there.
Just the neighbor.
I, you know, and again, we can talk about this fan culture, all this kind of stuff all the time. I always come down on the side of let creators create what they create. That is the story. They don't owe me any particular kind of story. You know, but they also have consequences to how they present. And I think there are natural consequences to making a big reveal like that and then not doing anything with it. But as an audience member, I go, okay, that's just what you decided to do. That one stings a little bit more than the others because it literally is a nothing ball. It literally is a goose egg of nothing. The others may be resolved later. The aerospace engineer could actually be Reed Richards in a movie or something like that, or somebody else we don't know. You know, a lot of these ideas could pay off. The Nexus thing could pay off later. You know, Wanda could bring the X-Men into this universe later. You know, like, but that one is actually nothing, and there's no chance for it to be anything. And it was the biggest moment of the season. So
I wonder if it kind of has that vibe where by the last 2 episodes were so much more firmly planted into MCU as we know it, where you've got all these characters that you're like, okay, we're back in. That we forget that we're also in the finale of this little series and they have to put a bow on it. So I think my desire is that they would take it and then ramp into the next thing quickly so that we can continue this momentum because it ends on such a big momentum burst. And even though it's a lot of ribbon tying and conveniences in this burst of, it's still a lot of momentum. There's, you know, this new vision, there's the end of the series. And I feel like maybe because there was so much going on, I kind of forgot for a second that this truly should be the kind of story arc end to Wanda's grief. And that's really what this TV series is about, is Wanda's grief, Wanda realizing that she is a really powerful being whose magic is based more in magic casting that has rules to it. Whereas she is this ruleless, chaotic explosion of whatever she thinks happens without understanding the ramifications of it. And so as she's beginning to understand those rules, obviously that changes her reality for multiple reasons. She realizes she can't have the reality that she wants safely because she's hurting other people. And they do touch on all of those things in the finale, but it's happening so quickly that it's almost like you just kind of don't have a chance to just chill for a sec. And when you go back and watch episode 1 of WandaVision, it's chill. It's just like a chill thing. And this is like adrenaline straight to the neck and scene. And it just felt it felt really wrong. It felt like an 8-ball at a dinner party all of a sudden or something. It was just a little bit too much. And then of course, you know, the end credit scenes, you've got like a couple more winks and nods that also tell you where things are at right now. But I don't know. I just wanted to see a little bit more, maybe calm, but could it have ended calm given the circumstances, given the world that she created? I don't know that it could have anyway. Yeah. So maybe there was no other way to do it. Who knows?
I'm not sure what billiards has to do with anything, but we will continue to keep that whatever 8-ball thing you were talking about in mind. So we are going to close off the spoilers. The spoiler section.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Listen, there's a lot of activity in pool halls. If you've ever been to, there's pool everywhere.
Yeah. No. I figured it must have been something like that.
Well, I'm gonna go. Deneé, do you know why I popped in? First of all, I tried to slip in so no one would see I came in with the big cover up, and then
this is good. Yeah. Tell us the story.
It spooked Phil so much that he pulled me out real quick. He's like, "Oh no, I hit the wrong thing." I had like 3-4 weeks ago said, "Hey, Aaron, Andrew, are we going to talk about WandaVision?" They're like, "Oh, at some point, can I be in on that, please?" And Aaron's like, "Yeah, we'll have you on to do WandaVision." And then 3 weeks go by, he completely forgets, and then we're sitting getting ready for another podcast, and he's like, "All right, Andrew, next week we're gonna have Deneé on to talk about WandaVision."
And then pop comes Drew. Say what?
I'm like, excuse me, I'm getting pushed aside. What? That's the power you have. That he goes against his own family for you.
Oh no.
I am glad you joined us. I'm glad you popped
am
in.
too.
It was good. I wasn't sure if it was like it was one of those things where Drew was like, I'm not telling you if I'm going to be on, or I was like, you're welcome to be on. He's like, I'm not telling you if I'm going to be on or not. I'll just pop in if I want to. I was
I
like,
didn't
all right.
know. I didn't know. I literally was just gonna watch, and then I was like, oh, I could actually kind of sneak in right now, so I did.
So good.
I wasn't going to join, but you know.
Well, we are glad you did, and yeah, WandaVision, I think is a big recommend from all of us. I mean, look, if you love the MCU, you already know this. Like, this is not, you weren't waiting to hear somebody say you should check this out if you're a fan of the MCU. I would say to those who aren't a fan of the MCU, haven't watched a lot of the movies, I still think there's some fun stuff here. You'll just be lost on some stuff. There'll just be some stuff that completely flies over your head.
A lot of stuff.
I mean,
but
something we didn't really talk about is that I think if you're not a fan of the MCU, but you're a fan of television, the first 5-6 episodes are going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Once it turns into the MCU, you kind of lose that. But I think you don't need to be a huge fan of the MCU to enjoy the first episodes, because I think they did that so well.
Yeah.
That the more they got away from it, the more I started to get a little disappointed. So.
Well, Drew and I are huge Dick Van Dyke fans, and so that first episode was just, pure amazingness for me, and I think for you too, Drew.
Yeah, it was so spot on. It was
so perfect.
Yeah,
it was so perfect.
I went, did they just go and like rebuild the exact set? Right? It was so perfect.
Sets. Oh, that was another thing I really loved about it. Just seeing how they reinvented that house every single time. I think it's rare we get to see a TV show that has that big of a budget, and it was a big budget, and it was really fun to watch. Yeah, I'm sad it's over, but I'm also excited. Oh, sorry, I did not mean to click that.
Yeah, it is. The perfect spot onness of it all, I think, was really, really impressive. So, yeah, very nice, very well done. All right, before we move on to our best ever challenge for the week, wanted to let you know again, thank you so much for being a SIF Pop member. If you'd like to be a member, you can go to patreon.com/SIFPop. SIF Pop members get all the content here, and then as well as a bonus podcast episode each week. This week we talked to Deneé, kind of about what's been going on in her life. So just a little catch up with Deneé on that, or sorry, mustard with Deneé on that.
Thank you.
And then as well as members don't have to listen to commercials. You may have been hearing commercials pop up in your SIF Pop podcast. That is one of the ways we continue to support what goes on here. If you are a supporting member, however, at SIF Pop, you do not hear those commercials. So if you want a commercial-free experience for the podcast, feel free to become a member at patreon.com/SIFPop. All right, let's move on to the best ever challenge, best ever Disney animated films. We will go number 5 to number 1, unless you're Deneé, and she will just name movies when she's ready.
You're not wrong.
No, so let's do it this way. Why don't I start, and then Andrew, and then Deneé, you can go third each time, and you can just throw a movie out, and we'll talk about it. As always, there are Trump rules. If you have something higher than it's mentioned by somebody else, you can trump it so we can talk about it later.
Can I trump all of them since mine aren't in order?
Right. Yes. Yeah. You can be absolute chaos magic throughout the entirety. Number 5 for me is Tangled. All right.
I actually haven't seen this movie.
Tangled is great. I love so much about this movie. I love the sense of humor in this movie is a little elevated from most Disney movies. It's a little more slapsticks, kind of, I'm trying to think of the word. There's a little bit of more ludicrous comedy in this. And I think they handle that tone really, really well. Of course, you've got one of my favorites of all time, Zach Levi as a Flynn writer in this, doing some really fun, interesting work. And, beyond that, a really incredible, emotional ending with, a message about, what it means to let go, what it means, to have super long hair that people can climb up to get in buildings. Really important themes and messages like that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, Tangled is great. I love it. Deneé hasn't seen it. Andrew, have you seen this one?
Oh, yeah. It's great.
Yeah. It's good stuff. What's your number 5?
I'm going to go with The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh,
Also haven't seen this one.
I think this has some of the best music out of all of the Disney movies. Very, I guess, cathedral. Whatever you'd like to call that type of music, but it's grandiose, and the story of Quasimodo is beautiful, heartbreaking, and there's something very powerful you could take away from it. Yeah, I think this is, and I think that Lord Frodo is one of the best villains, even though in the actual play, he's not the villain at all. So them turning him into the villain and it working so well was great. Just great voice acting and great singing all around. I love it.
I could not disagree with you more about this movie.
Really?
I think it's the worst music ever in a Disney movie. When Deneé's here, we have to have a good dinosaur fight of some sort. So we could actually have that in this category. No, that's a Pixar. No, that's Pixar.
Nobody would dare have that movie in their top 5.
No, it's interesting because I would have been apt to agree with you up until I rewatched this year, and I was so blown away by how terrible this movie is. It's like, and when I say terrible, I just mean how unthought out it is, and how even if the songs are good, let's say stylistically, which I would be more willing to agree with you, that like it's good musically, structurally, story-wise, they don't fit. They're ridiculous for this kind of movie. They're so out of the tone.
Hey, I thought this was a PG-13 show. I thought this was.
What did I say?
I thought we were supposed to be so kind to each other. I thought this was.
Oh, is kindness a part? I'm not.
Poor Andrew. He's like,
I'm being mad at this movie. I'm not mad at Andrew.
Deneé, Aaron is allowed to be wrong. It's fine.
I'm allowed every once in a while to be wrong. Yeah. I'm allowed. And in this case, I must be. But then the climax of this movie, the last scene, is so ridiculous and so much nonsense that I couldn't get over it. Like I watched it again this year, and I was just like, oh, this movie's terrible, and I didn't realize it. But yeah, that's my opinion, and I'm glad that you enjoy it.
Man, I'm scared of mine.
All right, Deneé, what's one you want to throw out there?
None of them. I hate them all. Aaron, everything. I'm just gonna go with I'll say Sword in the Stone.
Oh, nice.
As my first one to talk about.
That's a terrible movie. I hate that movie so much. Oh,
well, people like it when we disagree every once in a while. Like it's a little too much. We were in agreement all throughout this episode. There had to be a little bit of
I
tension.
do have to say, before Deneé gets into her review of Swords in the Stone, I did rewatch this recently. I had no idea. Yeah, I had no idea that Arthur is like voiced by like 4 different people throughout this entire movie.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
If you go back and watch it, like his voice changes, and that's because they kept recasting him, but they never went back and actually like had the new person dub the old lines.
That's funny. Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this in a long time, but I remember really liking it.
I think that's part of why
it is a really good movie. I like it.
I think that's part of why I picked it, is because I remember watching this for the first time when I was little. And the idea of finding a mage that can turn you into these different creatures, and you go on these different adventures, and I don't know. I remember watching him with the owl. Was it Archimedes, maybe the owl or something? And then you have the big bad dragon, and just all these shape-shifting kind of Madam Mim. And like the battle of the mages, and I just remember being so into that. Fast forward all these years, I'm into Dungeons and Dragons. We wonder why? No. I also was quite obsessed for a while with like King Arthur and Merlin, and any kind of shows that would come out or movies that would come out that had that element to it. I remember really leaning into that because of just the lore and all of those things. But this was my first exposure to that storyline of any kind. And it sort of had that feel to it, besides the fun magical element of it, that just an ordinary person could do something extraordinary and be selected somehow by like some incredible outside force, that even though you're skinny and scrawny and nobody thinks that you're anything, you could still stumble across something that turns you into, I don't know, just a powerful person. I don't know.
Yeah.
That really resonated with me. So I picked that one for one of my tops.
Nice.
Good call.
My number 4 is Big Hero 6. I get the sense, I could be wrong about this, that I am much more in love with this movie than a lot of people. I think a lot of people like it. I just don't know that it resonated with people as much as it did with me. Baymax is one of my favorite movie characters of all time. I just think, I love that big fluffy robot guy. This movie hits me in a lot of, just kind of the, like the fun, sentimental part of things. I don't know if I look at this movie that I go that it has like the best structured plot or like all that kind of stuff. I just go, I want to watch this movie all the time because it just brings me joy. And it's just kind of one of those movies for me. It was
my number 7. So yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. The art style is really interesting in it too. In that it, deals with a future that is kind of combined Tokyo with San Francisco and, like just a really interesting, a lot of really interesting things.
San Fran, Tokyo or something like that.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie.
It is. It's great. Love it very much. All right, Andrew, what's your number 4?
Probably going to get trumped. Moana.
No, not by me.
Ooh.
I have it on my list. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I mean, we've made a lot of comparisons between Moana and Raya recently in this episode. So, yeah, I love it. Alan Tudyk is obviously the star of this movie again, as he is with every Disney movie that he takes place in. I'll say How Far I'll Go is like one of the best new Disney songs of like the past 5 years.
So good.
Yeah.
I sing that one with
Crazy
Iris on the regular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the effects. I think that this movie here is where the new era of Disney animation effects really would shine above anything they'd done before. Like
sure.
Like it just looks so good. Like it shouldn't look this good, but it does.
Yeah. There's a lot I love about Moana. Like you said, the water effects are just absolutely incredible in this movie. Lin-Manuel Miranda, you can sense his hand in the songs and in some of the phrasing and different things he does so brilliantly.
You're welcome.
The performances are just so much fun, so much great humor. Yeah, this is a good. This just barely missed my list. So.
I remember when I watched this, I didn't see the ending. Like I didn't foresee how the big bad was going to become like solved or whatever. I didn't actually realize that the island was the same person, and I didn't see that. I know that a lot of people saw that, but I was really enjoying watching it, and I genuinely wasn't trying to figure it out, which is to me the sign of a good movie for me. When I'm just along for the ride rather than trying to pick it to pieces. But I loved that reveal. The idea that, someone's just missing a part of their heart and it can kind of just be a big moment. And that song when she's walking across the water, all the water parts and she's just kind of walking across the song that she's singing and how it just, that's such a cinematic moment. And it was so powerful. On top of this lead character being the kind of female lead character that I'm excited to show to Iris, and for her to be able to just that strong person who wants to go on their own adventure and kind of go outside of what the family expects. That's a really powerful message. One that I certainly walked myself. And when Iris was little, she was visiting her aunts, and my aunt sang that song to her for the first time. She also broke apart from the family path to do her own thing and to forge her own way. And so it is a meaningful and beautiful song, and one we sing all the time because it's so good. So yeah, that one's for sure on my list.
Nice. Well, then I will go to my number 3 then, correct? Danae, if you're going to use that for your number 4, I will go to my number 3, and this is where I have Wreck-It Ralph. This was just really fun, and there's this movie does something that I think is different than the rest of the Disney movies in that it takes the world of video games and really just kind of parodies it at the same time it is honoring it. And man, I just think it's so perfect and great. You know, where a lot of the humor comes from in this. Plus, I think the performances are great. Of course, I think the theme and the message are great. And the visuals are great. It's almost like they're good at this.
Yeah, that was a really fun one. I didn't think about that one.
Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph is a blast. What
I
about
like
you?
how the take on all the video games and stuff was really nostalgic too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Andrew, you have thoughts on Wreck-It Ralph? Do you want to tell me how awful it is?
Worst movie ever. No, it's a lot of fun. I was really late to the game on this one. Actually, when we did Ralph Breaks the Internet, still mad at that title. For not Ralph Breaks the Internet, But I saw the first one just before that one came out. So I was really late to the game. I don't know why, because after I watched it, I'm like, oh, this is great. I should really have what have I been waiting for is really what kept going through my head. It's a lot of fun. So
Andrew, what do you got at number 3?
Number 3, I have The Emperor's New Groove.
Oh,
good choice.
I'm so glad you have this one on the list because I struggled with whether that would make my top 5. I love this movie.
Yeah, it's so good.
Krunk might be one of the funniest Disney characters ever. He's the I know Deneé has a look on her face. He's the
Kronk. I think because it's Kronk.
Kronk?
Yeah,
yeah.
Kronk.
So say Krunk. Yeah, Krunk.
We're hearing Krunk.
You know how he puts his 2 little mitted gloves together when he makes the spinach puff? I do this in my life to this day.
Squeak,
So
squeaker,
good.
big squeak, and he talks
so
squirrel.
fun.
Yeah.
But no, and also we can't forget the Spader is like one of the best. He's like perfect. He is the perfect voice actor for
David Spade. Yeah.
What did I say? Oh, not James Spader. No,
not James Spader. He's Ultron.
Yeah, that's why that was in my head. Because we were just talking about it. No, David Spade is perfect voice casting for Tuco. Or Cusco. I cannot not get names right today.
That's okay. It's your day.
Yeah. But
I love this movie so much. The breaking of the fourth wall was so fun to watch.
Oh yeah. Well, because he's doing like the narration for this entire movie, and then it gets to that fourth wall where it gets back to him crying in the rain. He's like, "Hey, they've seen this part already. They don't need to see it again." Yeah. Yeah. But Kronk doing his own his own music for his like dramatic like sneaking up.
Died laughing.
So
I haven't thought about. I mean, that one when it came out, my family and I, we had so much fun watching that one over and over again, and really unique artistry in that one as well. It kind of took it to a different place. Yzma, with her elderly form and just kind of playing into that, and the voice actors that did Yzma. Oh gosh, what's her name?
I know
she's fantastic. I love that voice.
I never liked your spinach puffs. Never.
You mentioned
the shoulder angel and the shoulder devil.
Yes.
You mentioned during Raya that Sisu has a little bit of llama vibe to her as well, with some of the motion and the humor. And
I did. I felt that way.
Kit.
Yeah, Eartha Kitt is.
So yeah, and the dragon and Raya and the dragon. Yeah, there's a couple moments when I'm like, this has that new groove vibe to it. Just in that level of humor.
Yeah.
So there's also other moments, the squirrel popping the balloon and waking up in the middle of the night to figure out the plot. I can't. That one clearly should be on my list. Let's see, which one am I going to cross off here?
No, you don't have to. That's the beauty of it, is you don't have to. Deneé, what do you want to mention next?
Oh Lord. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go with I love that since I didn't put them in order, whomever is putting them up on the screen is just like, Deneé, come on.
They're waiting on bated breath.
I know. Let's just go with Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
Again, I don't have these actually in order, but here's why I chose this one.
I have this at number 2, which is my next one. So let's go ahead and talk about it now. So
okay, cool. The reason I chose this one, humor wise, I really wish I would have gone with Emperor's New Groove because that one cracked me up. But this one again, as a female looking at the lead, at the time that it came out was really inspirational for me because she was so vocal about her independence in that way. Now, watching it now, I have lots of questions.
About kidnapping and interspecies relationships and all sorts of stuff pops up now.
They should just rename this movie Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, it's got a lot of things that are interesting about it, but seeing the beauty in people who you don't normally see the beauty in was another one of the messages that I really enjoyed at the time. So, and I think I have done that in my own life growing up. I feel like I was that. I feel like I still do that with people where I oftentimes, like, I genuinely enjoy people, even if they don't look beautiful, or maybe that their life hasn't been beautiful. And maybe it started in watching this movie a little bit because it really impacted me when I watched it. It also came out on my birthday. So I had a special relationship with Beauty and the Beast because I felt like it was just for me, which is so dumb. But I was little, so yeah.
I had it at number 2. I think it's really close to perfection as a movie, and when I say that, I'm talking mostly about story, structure. The songs are so great. It's really well put together, and I always enjoy watching Beauty and the Beast. So yeah, I even liked the new one. Okay, I mean, obviously we're talking about 1991 Beauty and the Beast, but this also hits me in high school, right? So like I'm right in that mode of where I'm loving stuff. Movies are going to have a nostalgic feel to them. So my friends and I watched this, quoted it, all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah. All right, Andrew, you're number 2. I think we're ready for
Aladdin.
Yeah, I knew you'd have it up high. It just barely missed my list.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think the genie might be the greatest character ever put on screen. If not, he's in the conversation. It's perfect. It's a perfect movie. You love the main, you hate the villain. The songs are great. I don't think that there's a single character that is pushed aside. Every single character means something, straight down to Raja, Abu, and Iago. Every single one of them, the Sultan, they're all important and they're all memorable. Everything about this movie is memorable, and on top of that, you have this larger than life character in the genie who is just overshadowing everybody, yet you still remember all those other characters. I think that's what's the most magical thing about Aladdin. And if I had 3 wishes, it would be to have better sequels.
Just all 3 of your wishes are all the same. Better sequels.
Well, there were 3 sequels, right? Return of Jafar, and then there was maybe there were just
Prince
the
2, and then Prince of Thieves.
Yeah,
I didn't see any of those. So
good for you.
You do not need to rectify that at all. Deneé, what else do you want to mention? You should have 2 left on your list.
I do. I have 2 left on my list. I'm going to go Lion King.
Well, that's what I have at number 1. So you're just sneaking.
Man, my instinct is
it's my number 1 too. So
there you go.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, let's talk about Lion King.
Yeah.
When Lion King came out and I saw it at the theater that first time, it was, I think at the time, the first cinema experience of a movie starting before any logos or credits. And then the movie just started. And I remember looking around like something was weird and wrong. And then
is everything okay? Yeah.
The song, and you got all these animals coming to Pride Rock. And then it's just like, boom, the big Lion King comes across the screen. Everyone jumps because we were not expecting the big boom. Mm-hmm. And then when it happened at the end of the movie, there was applause. And I don't remember there being a moment in my childhood watching a movie where the reaction was that way. Mm-hmm. It was such an experience in the theater to see this kind of animation with these sweeping angles, and the music was really powerful, and the characters were fun, and it was an adventure. I don't know why Disney always has to have somebody die. I don't know why they do that. But Mufasa's death to this day,
Spoilers.
it just oh no. It just is it's one of the most horrible things I've ever experienced sitting in a theater. So that was awful. And you can't undo it, and you're just along for the ride. So I don't know. This is just an incredible thing. And I would also recommend, if anyone is a huge Lion King fan, if you have a chance to see it on Broadway, please do so, because it is so incredible. It is incredible. Even Mufasa's whole scene, how they do it, how the stage is built. The stage is kind of, it's in this the back part of the stage actually tilts up, so that the people can see it from all these different angles. And so it tilts up, and then it had all these puppets. It's incredible. Absolutely mind-blowingly incredible. All of the different actors are wearing puppetry on their body and moving it. You can go watch some trailers and stuff like this on YouTube just to kind of get a vibe for it. The audience is, or the people who are putting the production together are in the audience singing, doing call backs with these beautiful, really inventive puppetry in the audience and stuff. And it was just, to have this movie in my childhood and then to be able to watch it on Broadway, it was just a stunning experience. So I don't know. I would just super, super recommend, if you can get to Broadway someday, if you can see this show, however you might be able to see the show someday, I would definitely say do it.
Yeah, spoilers for William Shakespeare's Hamlet. Sorry about Deneé spoiling Hamlet for you.
Yeah, listen, I was the one in school who was like, read Hamlet, and I'm like, okay, and then I went and got Cliff Notes. So
yeah, you guys pretty much hit it all. This is a great movie.
You said you guys, and it was just me.
yeah. Deneé pretty much hit on everything I wanted to say. It's just an incredibly powerful, emotional, well-drawn movie, and it's good stuff. Andrew?
I want to talk about the voice acting in this, because all around everybody is perfect. With Broderick, James Earl Jones is the absolute best Mufasa there ever could be, and then Jeremy Irons' Scar is just so evil. Oh, you love to hate that guy.
Yeah. It's good stuff all around. I think that means, Deneé, we're down to your final pick.
Okay.
What do you have at number 1? I'm just kidding. What else do you have to talk about?
I literally just want to quickly do a shout out to Frozen, and there's really one reason why. It's because this is the first time I remember the love story from a woman being about sisters, being about family, instead of it being tied to a man. I just think it's a really important moment in Disney's history that they broke away from what a woman or what a young girl should aspire to look for in love. And that really just on the nose broke that down. I think we saw some similarities in other movies. There's obviously other characters that, love their family. I think but Brave was Pixar, right?
Correct.
So this, I think, is one of the first times, if not the first time, that they really broke that mold. And it's such an important mold to break, because the power of story from the female perspective is so often tied to who you're with and your worth or your value being about whether or not you're at peace in a relationship. And so there's such little individuality, and the power of individuality, and the power of family at the same time, finding your identity in yourself first. And then if a relationship comes later, that's not the point of the film. It's not the point of what's being shown. And that's just not the case for most of my life growing up, watching shows, not just Disney, but watching shows. The question of who is a female lead going to wind up with is just the point. It's the point. And it's even on Disney, shows. If you look at the Disney things that just air on Disney Plus, it's just so prevalent. And I wish it wasn't that way, because it really does confuse things as you grow up when you're trying to find your identity. And this one was the first time I really saw it done so well. and it's almost like they were kind of calling themselves out on it as the story went on screen, because they set it up to where that they're just doing the textbook, who is she going to be with, who is she going to marry, and then she ends up saving her sister, and that's love. So it was just a great way to break the mold, and I don't think that I don't know. I wonder what Disney will do next to kind of grab our attention. I will say, no spoilers, of course, for Raya, but I like how they also positioned her as that independent young woman. Same with Moana.
Mhm.
So yeah, they're doing a good job.
Yeah, you're right. It's the whole point of Frozen is they set you up to think it's another, find your love story, and that's not what it is. So Frozen's a great movie. I don't care about the whatever backlash has happened. That some of the best music and really great film. So I have no problem mentioning Frozen.
You better not have a problem with it, because I will come at you. I'm like,
Frozen is terrible. It's the worst movie ever. I just saw it recently.
I know.
It is pretty
you
bad.
think that it's great.
Yeah, Andrew doesn't like it. That's true. Andrew could go off on it.
But I'm not going to, because Deneé's my friend.
That's
Oh
right.
my gosh.
He's more polite than I am.
There are a lot of things that I don't like about Frozen, but that part of it is just, I can't deny that it was really, really powerful.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's something I can't relate to, obviously. It's
Right.
not something that I can say, oh, I haven't. It's very difficult for me to say, oh, I don't feel like I've been represented in a movie before.
All right.
It's so strange because you just don't realize it.
Where's the skinny white guy at?
I'll mention some that were mentioned in the chat. Lilo and Stitch was mentioned as a favorite of some. There's also, I'm trying to find ones that we did not mention.
Yeah, I've been, I only had 5 on, because technically I could just list every single one of these.
Right, you could just list every Disney movie.
So I only picked 5 honorable mentions, but people have been mentioning them, so I've whittled it down to 3. So.
Tarzan. Edmund mentioned Tarzan. Really liking Tarzan in the chat as well. So that one was going. Mulan, which we did not cover, was mentioned. And it's interesting too. A lot of it does depend on kind of your age. As you know, Disney. Every generation has their own Disney stuff, and it's just kind of, I don't know.
That's true. For the fact that, obviously you can go back and watch every single one of these whenever you want, but it's mostly the ones that you relate to the most are the ones that came out roughly around the time that you were a kid. That's why Lion King came out, 91-ish? 92?
Yeah, somewhere right around there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was 5 or 6. So, yeah, it was like the perfect time for me to go in and see Rafiki.
Summer of 94 was when Lion King.
Oh, 94? I was older than 5. So,
but nobody's talking about Chicken Little, okay? Nobody.
I like some of those movies. Chicken Little's not bad. I mean, it's not on the level of these other ones we're talking about, but
yeah.
Which ones did you want to mention, Andrew?
Since the others in the chat, I'm down to 2 now. The Jungle Book. I love the Jungle Book.
I think somebody in the chat mentioned that too. Yeah.
Oh, did they? I didn't see it. Then Fox and the Hound.
Have to mention Fox and the Hound. Yeah. So good.
Deneé, have you not seen that movie?
I think it's just too hard for
I really appreciate you guys, but what is wrong with you? Those poor animals.
No. Don't get me wrong.
Friendship, Deneé.
Fox and the Hound is sad as hell, but it's a good movie.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's awful. It makes you feel stuff. Who wants to do that?
I have to mention.
In the chat said Disney and Pixar. Yes, they are the same. It doesn't matter.
No, stop it. Now you're just trying to make me mad.
Yeah.
They're wanting you to go off on a rant. There are literally people who are preparing for your rant.
Yeah.
I don't have one. Okay. I do want to mention 4 or 5 more. Zootopia.
It's a good one.
Really great.
I like that one.
You're going to start how?
Bolt is really great as well. I really enjoyed Meet the Robinsons. It's not one a lot of people talk about, but I did enjoy Meet the Robinsons. The OG Robin Hood and Little John running through the forest. Yeah, I just have to. And then, so different from everything else, but I want to mention it because it really is artistic, is Fantasia. Fantasia is a really interesting film and a really interesting thing for Disney to do with their animated studio. And I really enjoy it. So I wanted to mention that as well.
Are you talking the original Fantasia or the new
Yes.
one? Okay.
Yeah, no, not Fantasia 2000.
Okay.
Although Fantasia 2000 is fine, but
Yeah.
the original is kind of groundbreaking. So,
Oh, yeah. What's your favorite segment from Fantasia?
Oh, man. I mean, hippos, right? Like, it's got to be the hippos.
The hippo and the alligator dancing?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm more evil, I guess, because I like the Cold Mountain, Dante's Mountain.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just creepy. And then,
Sorcerer's
of course,
Apprentice.
Sorcerer's Apprentice is also, I think that's the most iconic moment.
Yeah. That's what most people remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
So
very good.
I guess Disney has done good things, is what we're getting.
They have the formula. They get it. They've got it down. All right, let's move on to our buried treasure. Andrew, why don't you kick us off? What's something in any area of pop culture that you want to make sure people know about?
Well, I guess in honor of Lion King being my number one, Aaron, you know that I love the movie The Ghost in the Darkness. I went back and I bought the actual diary of Colonel John Henry Patterson about his time in Savo. It's called The Man Eaters of Savo.
Oh, interesting.
It is his actual.
Look at that! It looks so scary.
It's here's the story, Deneé. This is a true story. True story. Back in
wait, do you want to hear this? Do you want to hear this, Deneé?
Okay, can I tell you what I think I know about it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, once upon a time, there was Africa.
Yes, there's always been.
Then there was some people that lived in this village, and they were intense and stuff. And then there was this really, really confused lion, and wanted to eat the people instead of sing songs to them and give them back rubs. and so it started to eat people, and that was in the darkness, and it was really scary. They call it the ghost in the darkness. And by the end, everybody got along really, really well, and nobody died or anything. It was just magical, and there's a lot of fairies.
It was a sitcom in
I'm not gonna lie, you were about 75% there until you got to the ending. And then no. It's a horrifying true story about this British bridge builder who was charged with going to the Savo River in Africa. It's in Kenya. And while he was there were these two man-eating lions who killed over 100 workers. And they couldn't catch these lions. They couldn't get them. And it got to the point where they thought that these lions were demons. They actually named one the Ghost, and they named the other one the Darkness, which is why the movie that this is based on is called The Ghost in the Darkness.
What terrible names for animals. If the darkness is coming, and they're like, yeah, it's because the sun is going down. And you don't realize it's because you're being chased by a man-eating lion.
Yeah. Well, they, like he would, every single night he would go up into a hidey tree, and then the lions would attack on the opposite side of the encampment of where he was. So then he would move to a different area, and then every single night, it's like they knew where he was with his gun, and then they would go and hide and snag a worker from somewhere else in the camp. If you go to Chicago, Chicago Field Museum, you can actually see the two lions that they're actually on display. To this day, they're happy lions that they live in a beautiful, wonderful place. Yeah, they were maneless lions. They were maneless male lions. They didn't have manes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
They it's a fascinating story. It's not that terrible. It's not a terribly long read. It's more I guess you could say like a daily diary kind of thing, where it's not like it's not a grandiose storytelling. It's like, and today I lost a couple more workers to these lions, and we did this on the bridge, sort of thing. So
I when you said it's not a terribly long read, my mind went to Monty Python. Yeah, my mind went to Monty Python, where he's writing on the wall, and he's like,
"Oh yeah,
the monster of."
It's like, I guess he died in the middle of writing it.
While he's dying, like, Sorry, this is my brain.
But no, I really, really recommend you read The Man-Eaters of Sabo. It's so good.
My buried treasure this week is a 1954 movie called Sabrina. Now, there's a remake of this with Harrison Ford in it, but I have been on a Billy Wilder kick lately and kind of catching up on a lot of his movies that he's written, directed, and I hadn't seen Sabrina before. And so I finally got around to watching it. I fell in love in this movie with not only Audrey Hepburn, who is just absolutely fetching in this movie, but also Billy Wilder. I think I fell firmly in love with Billy Wilder's writing in this movie. I just think it is so funny, so beautiful, so clever and interesting. And I just, Audrey Hepburn's great. I am not, in kind of catching up on some of these movies, I'm not actually very much of a Humphrey Bogart guy. I don't really get the appeal of Bogart like a lot of people do, but he's really interesting in this because he's playing the role of kind of someone trying to mess up a relationship and then accidentally falling into it himself. And William Holden is kind of the third in that trio. And he's really funny in this. I had a really good time with this. So if you haven't ever had the chance to check out the original Sabrina, again, that's 1954 version, I'd highly recommend it. I think it holds up really, really well. I think it feels very modern in kind of the humor and the writing and the aspect of it. And so I enjoyed it. Sabrina.
Nice. Man, Billy Wilder is crazy good.
So good.
Yeah,
it really has been a whole...
All of his movies are timeless. You could go back and watch them now and just know, oh, this is going to be good. I still think Double Indemnity is my favorite out of all of them.
Yes. But, that's the reason I've been on. Yeah, that's the reason I've been going on this kick and in my downtime watching Billy Wilder stuff is I watched Double Indemnity. I was like, this is one of the best movies ever made. And I didn't even know it I knew it existed, kind of, but I'd just never taken the time to see it. Now I'm like, how many other amazing movies am I missing just because the hole in my, knowledge? Have
you seen Sunset Boulevard yet?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyhow, I would definitely recommend Sabrina, 1954. All right, Deneé, you're the guest, so you get to finish us off. What's your buried treasure this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna finish us off with an app that I'm gonna recommend called Webtoons. Oh look, there's a little icon right there for it.
Deneé, this is an audio podcast. This is an audio.
Hey, you be quiet, Aaron Dicer. You let the woman talk.
No, it truly is now both a video and audio podcast.
Yeah.
We're on Twitch. We're on the YouTubes. This is super visual now.
Yeah.
I found this app a while back, and then I have slowly been adding comics to my library that I keep up with every week. And so every day there are updates to the comics, various comics. Sometimes they'll release like every single day. Sometimes it's like twice a month. Some of them release just weekly on different days of the week. So no matter what, at the end of the night, before I go to bed, I open up Webtoons and I go and see what is updated, what stories are updating and kind of where they're at. It's such a fascinating thing to just be able to do. I used to go onto webcomics, their web pages. So for example, there's one called Ava's Demon. I used to go to her web page every single week to keep up with it. But now her webcomic is on this platform. So I can just kind of keep up in one spot. So it's just, like it's having an RSS feed of all these different webcomics, all to this nice little app. You can like buy coins if you want to, and that allows you to read ahead on stories. So if you're really excited about a cliffhanger and you want to spend 5 coins to go ahead and read the next one, you can do that. That supports the artist. And there are other apps out there, but there's a lot of really, really good content here. And I know I've talked about this on other platforms, so I won't spend a ton of time with some of my favorites, but there are just some really beautiful artists. Oh my gosh, the talent is incredible. And then some of the stories that I've been finding are really, really nice. And they just keep adding more and more stories that are kind of getting started. I would recommend Ghost Bats is one that I'm enjoying. It's kind of this sci-fi rock band punk band called the Ghost Bats.
Is it called The Ghost and the Batness? Is that what
Nope.
it's? Oh, okay.
And I was waiting for my cue. But
You stole it. There's another one called Hardcore Leveling Warrior that has been on this platform for a long time. So there's tons of backstory to read. It is like anime heavy in that but it's really well done at the same time. Omniscient Reader is another one that's got a lot of really good storyline building. And there's just sweet ones. There's one by Zach Jordan called The Last Human that I just found a couple of days ago. And it's kind of more of a slice of life, but building a story at the same time. Just great stuff. And every once in a while, you just sort of need something that you can just quickly get. And this isn't something you have to keep up with all the time. You can kind of just go at your own pace. So much. Another slice of life one that I would recommend is The Little Trash Maid. Instead of Mermaid, The Little Trash Maid. And it's such a funny, clever, little quick little synopsis of a little mermaid that's covered in trash from the ocean. And it's just like this cute little moments. So it's filled with great stories. Highly recommend it. Called Webtoon app. And
Look at this trash. Isn't it gross?
Exactly.
I think we have one more buried treasure since we had another guest this week. Drew, what is your buried treasure for the week?
You thought you'd heard the last of me. You have not. So buried treasure, I just thought I would take this time because every time I've been on here, you're like, what's your buried treasure? And I'm like, I don't have anything interesting going on in my life. But I have been twitching more and enjoying playing Twitch. So yes, you can come to my Twitch channel if you want to hang out for some chill puzzle games, Guitar Hero, stuff like that. And just say hi.
My buried treasure is you speedrunning Kalimba, right? Isn't that what it's called? Do you still speedrun Kalimba? Like you still doing that kind of thing?
I have taken a break from the game because I was getting too angry.
Oh no!
Well, with Kalimba, it comes down to milliseconds. There's literally a world record that I lost to 0.01. We're talking
world record?
Yeah, one frame, fastest in the world, off by 0.01. And it's just you start to. I just needed a break.
Yeah.
So
you did Little Nightmares. I actually saw someone run that game just like I think 2 weeks ago. They were playing that on their channel.
Yeah, I like Little Nightmares a lot.
So
one, though.
If you're watching the video part of this, the characters behind Drew are from Kalimba, the ones on the wall. So
yes, those are from the developers themselves. They're one of 100 or something like that.
Oh, nice little collectible.
Yeah, they're 40 of. I almost wanted to turn them back and tell them, give me the next one.
Do 41.
Dude, I wanted 41.
Yeah. I understand.
41, but it just didn't work.
I get it. I totally get it.
We lost Andrew. Where'd he go?
I don't know. He'll be back. If not, we can finish without him.
I got it. Just go. I got this.
Deneé, do you want to hit your Twitch?
Yeah.
Since we're talking about Twitches, a lot of people are watching us on your Twitch right now because we are broadcasting to your Twitch channel.
Yes, and thank you for doing that. I've had probably about 13 people consistently since we started. So thank you guys so much. Slab and Jody and applicant, Moko Maid, Slab, and oh my gosh, so many people. I'm gonna miss a lot of you guys, but thank you, new users in there. It's just been a lot of fun. You can find me on Twitch, on Instagram, and on Twitter, all at Deneé Says. That's DENEESAYS. I will continue to go on Twitch on Monday mornings with the morning DNA, and then I'll be popping in and out for other projects, including a new Dungeons and Dragons podcast / show that's going to be starting soon. It has its own Twitch platform, but you can just follow my Deneé Says stuff for all that information, so that way you don't have to think about too much.
And while you're following people, you can follow me at Aaron Dicer on Twitch, at Aaron Dicer, the Sif Pop show. It broadcasts there as well as any other podcasts that I'm doing there at Twitch, and that's at Aaron Dicer. So, and Andrew, do you have a Twitch?
No. I'll tell you one
I
thing.
thought we were going to go 4 for 4.
I do have one thing to plug though.
Do it,
that's,
man.
That's the hole in my backyard that my dog just dug. So I need to plug that hole. Like,
that's awful. Oh no!
Is that what just happened?
Yeah. Somebody brought him back, is what it was. So that's what that was.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. There's your plug for the week. Well, we did it, guys. We did a podcast. Congratulations to us and all involved for the accomplishment of this task that many, I heard many people say we could never do, and yet we accomplished it. So well done. Thank you so much for joining us today. Sif Pop is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out with us again today.
Thank you, buddy.
Huge thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show. Thanks to Drew for all the amazing graphics on the show and for being on the show today. When he was promised he could. And then his brother.
Big clap. And I always have a little bit of sadness. I'm like, oh, golf clap. And so I was accepting it this week, and then now you don't do it.
Well, there you go. See, that's what happens when you're on the show.
Well, you know what? Starting from now on, you get big clap. You get big clap.
I like it.
And of course, thanks to the one and only host emeritus of Sif Pop, Deneé Hughes, for hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me back. It's always nice to come back to Sif Pop.
Anytime,
especially when I want to talk about what I'm watching.
Right, exactly. Also, much love and gratitude to our Sif Pop members for giving monthly to make Sif Pop a real thing. Support starts at $3 a month, and you get access to all the bonus episodes, as well as some other fun stuff. You can find out more about that at patreon.com/SifPop. Lots of ways to connect with us. Feel free to comment, rate, or leave a review wherever you listen to the podcast. Or you can email us, feedback@sifpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too. So make sure you let them know about it and that listening is much easier than letting go of deep emotional trauma. We will be back next week with more. You know what? I'm not going to tell you who's going to be on because I'm not 100% have it locked in yet, but I will tell you probably going to be talking about Coming to America, the new Coming to America sequel, as well as something else. And we will see you then.
Bye.
Thank you, Video Hanger Outers.
Yes.
Love you. Appreciate you all.
Very
As Deneé
active
mentioned
today.
Wow. So you guys hang out live for a minute? That's sweet. Mm-hmm. Guys, officially the show is over. I can say hi to chat. Hi, chat. Holy crap. Showing up for me. Sorry.
No. Take
let's
it
celebrate. It's awesome. Yeah, it's great.
I'm surprised you didn't do it during. Like,
it was so hard to not say hi to my chat. That was hard.
Jody Hug Monster. This was fun. Thank you, everyone.
Jody. It's good to see you. And I know that Jetsmet said, let's see, jumping on Twitch to make bacon and eggs and cheese. So I don't know that I can control a raid today, but if you guys want to go run over on Jetsmets and follow them, maybe you can go over there. Also, right now, my mother is on Twitch streaming her arts and crafts. Nice. So I'll throw out her link in the chat too.
Very, very nice. Let's see. Yeah.
Just tell her I sent you. Since we're not rating.
There it is. Twitch.tv.
My mom streams. Yes, my mom streams. She streams crochet. So my whole family.
That's
pretty
so
much.
Cool.
No, truly, yeah. So my mom is on stream and she's on right now. So if you guys want to go raid her, it's a pretend raid. It's a Sif Pop pretend raid.
Video Hanger Outers. That's exactly what you are. We do appreciate it. We've got to record some spoilers, and Deneé has a family to get back to. Apparently I do too. It's probably something I should eventually get back to as well. And apparently Andrew needs to get back to his dog, who is Houdini dog.
Yeah.
We had one of those growing up. We had a Houdini dog growing up for sure. So we'll see you all the next time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.